This is an Acer X193W widescreen 19-inch monitor. This thing was manufactured in 2009, and it has a problem. As you can see, the power light is just flashing on and off. It doesn't respond to the buttons at all. You can see the screen is flashing on and off ever so slightly, like the backlights are trying to come on. So this thing has a problem, and we're going to try to fix it. Now, it's almost certainly going to be bad capacitors given the age of the monitor. Now, I'm not sure how many people are going to bother trying to fix a 19-inch monitor that's 10 years old here in the year 2019, but we're going to go ahead and fix this one, just in case there's somebody out there who still wants to fix something like this. Now, the reason I'm making the video is because there's one peculiarity about this monitor, and that is opening it up. This monitor is very difficult to open, and there's a trick to it, and I made the video primarily to show you what the problem is and what the trick is. Now, this monitor has a bezel on the front, and it's snapped on very tightly. It's actually kind of hard to get it off, but now here's the real problem, and this is where you're going to get frustrated. If we look underneath the stand here, right there, there's a screw hole right there. There's actually one screw holding the front and the back together. And you've got to remove that screw in order to get the monitor apart. And the problem is that that screw is completely covered by the stand. It's not at all obvious how to get this stand off. Now there's a button here. If you press this button, you can get this part off, but that's not really going to help you. You need to get this whole thing off. And the trick is this. You got these two little plastic squares here. And underneath those plastic squares, there are two screws on each side. We have to get these little squares off. You need to get your little screwdriver right underneath these guys and pry them off. If you come in from this side behind it, you can kind of hook it underneath here and kind of get it started. Kind of a narrow blade screwdriver probably works the best. Okay, and there, now you see it. Two little screws right there. That's the key to opening this thing, getting that guy off. And I will tell you, I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure this out. I'm going to take the other side off. And there goes the other one. Now we've got these four screws exposed. Now we can get that back off. Just four Phillips head screws. Okay, now with those four screws out of the way, off it comes. And now we have also exposed the screw in that hole, which we also take out. Now with all of those screws out of the way, it's just a matter of prying the bezel off. Just a word of warning, this bezel is on really tight. Okay, you're going to probably be at it for a while, popping it off, and you're probably going to break a few clips. Okay, I've gotten the whole bezel finally loosened up. I did break a few clips along the way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over. I think this might actually be a little easier to holding everything together. Oops. The reason I'm doing this so I can take the back off like that. Okay, now we have our electronics exposed. One thing to be careful of is this little button board, which is kind of flying loose here. We need to remove the cables to the backlights. A little tight there. Get a little small blade screwdriver underneath that hook, and then just, there we go. Get it out that way. Now we can sort of just rotate this entire complex backwards. exposing our boards. Now here's our combination power supply inverter board. When you rotate this metal can upward, be careful not to damage this cable right here. Now there are 4 screws holding this board in place. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we can go ahead and remove those. Okay, we've gone ahead and removed those 4 Phillips head screws. The board is now loose. We still have 1 cable connecting it to the main board, and we can actually just get that off like so. And now we have the board in our hand. Now we get a closer look at our board, and surprise, surprise, we have 2 swollen capacitors. So we shall go ahead and replace those. Now, a word about this board. You may not have this exact same board in your monitor. You might have a similar board, but with the components arranged differently. So we have C820, which is bad, and that is a 220 microfarad 25 volt. And we have C818, which is swollen, and it's a 470 microfarad 16 volt. And I've got replacements for those, and we're going to go ahead and solder those in. Okay, we've gone ahead and put in those new capacitors, and I've tested the other ones on the board, like these over here. Haven't found any other bad ones, so we're going to go ahead and put it back in the monitor and see how she does. We have put the repaired board back into the monitor, and we've gone ahead and buttoned everything up, put it back together. We're going to go ahead and test it. And that's what we want to see. Okay, so the monitor has been repaired by replacing those 2 bad capacitors. If you are experienced with electronics and monitor repair in particular, there's nothing unusual about this repair job. The reason I made the video primarily is the one caveat about this monitor, and that's how difficult it is to take apart. Once you understand how to properly take this monitor apart, it will make your life a whole lot easier. The tricky part is getting this pedestal off the monitor, which involves getting these plastic covers off of those screws. If you get these plastic covers off and expose these screws, then you get the pedestal off, and from that point on, everything is pretty much routine. The other thing to make note of is this bezel is on very tight. The clips are fairly flimsy, and you're almost certainly going to break some of those clips getting this front bezel off.